Hello, everybody. Welcome back to OVN's No Neutral Podcast. I'm your host, Taylor. This is a show all about veterans staying in motion through using sports to build up their mental and physical health. Here with me today is Joshua, a Coast Guard veteran.
Hello.
And you just retired, correct, last year?
Yeah, I retired in 2025.
And it's 20 years or so for retirement, just like the other branches of the service, right?
Yep, just like all the other ones, 20 years and you can collect your retirement.
Nice. Is it delayed or immediate?
It's immediate. It's just like anything else.
Oh, cool. Um, you joined right out of high school?
Yes, yeah. I was signed up at 17 years old, so I graduated, I had a month off and then went right to boot camp.
Oh, geez, you didn't even get to have a summer.
No, not really. We took a family vacation to Colorado for 2 weeks, and I had my wisdom teeth taken out. My uncle, who was in the Navy, gave me the heads up on that, and he said get them taken out before boot camp. So had my wisdom teeth taken out, family vacation, and rock and rolled right to boot camp for 8 weeks.
Yeah, I got lucky. They didn't force me to remove mine in in basic training or AIT for my job. Um, and I actually got mine out not too long ago. Uh, so what made you choose the Coast Guard out of all the branches?
Um, well, part of that was my parents. They didn't at 17. I really didn't have the option to just go talk to anybody I wanted to, so they kind of limited me on what recruiters I could talk to. And the big thing for me, I wanted to help people. And the other branches, they go to war, and sometimes you have to hurt people. Coast Guard has been involved in every major war as well, but our primary mission is life saving. So I wanted to help people.
No, that makes complete sense. I've actually never really seen a Coast Guard recruiter, which it's a little silly since I live in Michigan and we have, you know, probably the most amount of lakes, or second most amount of lakes. So what exactly was your job? And do you get to like, can you reclass or you get stuck in one job? Because needs of the Coast Guard say, hey, we need to keep you as a welder or whatever.
So so the Coast Guard kind of works. It's very similar to the Navy. We share the same rates, same rank structure. Um, but for us, a lot of the Coast Guard you'll go to boot camp and you do your 8 weeks of boot camp, and some people will go direct to what we call A school, which is where you learn your what would be an MOS. That's where you learn your rate or your job. Or some people go direct from boot camp out into the fleet. Um, Other services called undesignated. We call them non-rates because you're not rated. You don't have a job. And you fall into one of three categories. You'll have aviation category, so you'll either be an airman, then you have a seaman, and then you have fireman, which is going to be your engineering. And you fall into one of those three categories. And the route that I took, I was kind of unsure what I wanted to do. So I didn't select anything to go direct boot camp to A school. I went out to the fleet and went to my first unit, and it was a small boat station actually here in Michigan. I was in the Thumb, and our primary mission there was federal law enforcement and search rescue, ice rescue, um, and I got to kind of experience a little bit of a few different jobs that were available, and narrowed it down that I didn't want to do any of those. So started to talk to some other people and doing some more research, and then I went into the healthcare field. I was a corpsman, so I went out to school in Petaluma, California for that.
Huh, I'm kind of surprised it sent you all the way to California.
We're such a small service. That's our only school for that.
That makes sense. I can also see them, right in the coattails of the military and throwing people in some of the military courses potentially, or using some of their infrastructure, I should say.
Some of them. So a lot of the different. So you have your primary school is going to be like your A school. That's where I became a health services technician or a corpsman, and that was 15 weeks long. The first 4 weeks of that is going to be your EMT certification, and then after that you learn one body system until you learn all of them. And then you have your final test. But I went to sea schools. I went to a lot of Navy sea schools. I went down to a low pressure chamber training school at Miramar in California. I did a underwater survival course with the Air Force in Spokane at Fairchild Air Force Base, where they do their SEER school. We went through the underwater survival portion of that. I did a sea school in Aberdeen, Maryland, the Field Chemical, Biological, and Nuclear Warfare School, and then Seaburn as well. I did that in Aberdeen. So we the Coast Guard kind of um, they'll piggyback a lot of schools. And what's nice is when I go to the Navy schools, the Air Force schools, the Army schools, stuff like that, it's accredited. I get accreditation out in the civilian world, whereas most of the Coast Guard schools for my rate are not really accredited other than the EMT portion of it.
Oh, that's kind of cool. I did not know that. I know that, you know, there you the mission of the Coast Guard varies so much. And they're involved with just about everything, including keeping, blockades happening in times of war and all that. So I take it you never jumped on the back of a submarine?
I never jumped. However, while I was stationed in Alaska, we did do a medevac off of a Navy sub. So one of their members had something that their doc on board could not take care of, and they needed to get medevaced and taken to a higher level of care. So we flew out on a helicopter. So I didn't jump on the back of a sub. However, I've pulled Navy people off of them.
It's actually really cool. I brought that up
Yeah.
joking because everyone I think had seen the clip of
Oh yeah.
I'm a,
Everybody's seen it.
yeah, I think it was the Gulf of Mexico where it was like a cartel sub or something like that.
Yeah. My cousin, he joined the Navy. Not too long after I joined the Coast Guard, and I have to remind him all the time that the Coast Guard always has to save the Navy's ass.
Well, I mean, if there's no aircraft carrier close by with a helicopter, yeah, you guys are the ones to call, especially Alaska. I can see Alaska keeping you very busy.
It was. That was actually I had two units that were my absolute favorite, and Kodiak, Alaska that was one of my favorites for both on duty and off duty. My job that I did there, I ran. So I worked in the clinic while I was there, and our clinic at the time we still saw dependents and retirees. So my patient portal and the amount of patients that I would see was anywhere between like 2-year-old children and adolescents up to we had a 106-year-old World War II veteran that would come in.
Oh, geez. That's actually
And
really cool.
it was you could not help him with anything. If you opened the door for him, he'd hit you with his cane. But I learned more in the 3 years that I was stationed there than I did the rest of my career for actual patient care. It was
Well, yeah, you kind of had
it,
to with such a varying degree of ages and what they're dealing with and all that.
right. Shortly after that, Coast Guard clinics quit seeing dependents and retirees, and they had to utilize their VA services. Um, but while I was up there, yeah, with the big age gap and my patient being from so young to so old, and then my primary duties were in the clinic. I was doing day to day. I'd see 18 to 20 patients a day. We had four medical officers that would oversee that. And then, but my collateral duty was aviation mission specialist. And that was when I'd stay in duty, it wasn't clinic duty. I'd stay in duty with a pager. And if the pager went off, we'd have to go out and fly on a medevac.
So would that be like one day on call, a day off, 2 days in the clinic, or how would that work?
No, the clinic was open Monday through Friday, and we'd be there at 7 o'clock in the morning, dressed, ready to go. We'd see a schedule of patients up until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then your duty would start after that. So we'd actually have two people on duty. We'd have one person on duty to run the clinic, and I would also be in the clinic to help out if the person on duty needed help. But if my pager went off, I would have to grab all my bags and everything, and then I would go down to the hangar, hop in the helo, and we'd take off for a medevac.
Okay.
And
And
and my schedule for that, the majority of it was a 1 in 3. So it was one day on, 2 days off. Every 3 days I was on call to go fly.
Okay, that's not too bad. I mean, it doesn't make for, a long day or two.
It does. I was lucky enough. I lived on base right by the clinic, so I could go home for lunch. I could go home for dinner if I wanted. After hours, if it was after 4 o'clock, I could go home, hang out with my family for a little bit. My daughter was born up there, so it was nice to be able to be a little bit more involved in that instead of being gone every 3 days.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that sounds like a relatively good work-life balance. Kind of a little bit better than some of our EMTs than just the regular world get.
Oh, 100%. It had its ups and downs. Someone takes a vacation, then you switch to a port and starboard where every other day you're standing duty or you got the pager. Or there were times we were low on staff where I would stand official duty one day and then the next day I would have the pager. And if I was on base or if I was able to take the flight, I would just come in and take the flight if I wasn't on crew rest hours or things like that. And the other people that I flew with, they would do that as well. But our AMS staff was generally shorter on numbers. There wasn't a ton of people who were super interested in it, and they just kind of wanted to do the basic stuff. And me, um, I chase that adrenaline. So I'm
Hmm.
flying on helicopters. I'm doing medevacs, and our AMS guys, we got all the extra training. We got sent to all the schools. We got all the cool gear. We got all the good stuff. So that was kind of an added bonus too.
Yeah, no, that is nice. Did you meet any of the guys from Deadliest Catch? Any of those crab fishermen who
Yes,
were?
yes. I don't remember names because I was stationed there 2009 to 2012. Um, but yeah, there was a few of the boats were docked there in Kodiak, and I did do one specific medevac on there, one of the deadliest catch boats, and they had a member who he fell from an upper level of the superstructure, and his back kind of folded in two over the
Ooh,
handrail.
yeah, that would not be a fun recovery or injury.
He was not having a good time. It
Yeah,
was for sure.
no, I can only imagine the kind of damage that would do to somebody, especially if they hit like the shoulder blades, probably break those.
I don't remember specific injuries for that one, but I do remember he was not having a good time. He was in pretty rough shape. And so the way that the Coast Guard works is we can't take business away from a civilian entity. So if Life Flight or Towboat US or any of the other search and rescues can go out, then we can't take that business from them. So when we would go out on medevacs in Alaska, I never got to go out on a medevac when it was sunny and 60 degrees and beautiful out. Every time we went out, it
Hmm.
was an absolute blizzard. It was crazy wind, crazy waves. If it was above civilians' limitation, that's when we went out. So we never got to go out and all the fun stuff. It was always very much a keep your head on a swivel, and we're operating at our limits to go out and do this.
Not that makes sense. I didn't realize there were so many different services out there, but it makes sense to have not just life flight, but like tugboats who would go out and do that.
Right. Like here in the Great Lakes, we have Towboat US, I think, is the big one. And they use a very similar boat to what we used to use. And they'll go out, you can call them, but that's a for-profit organization. So we can't take business away from them.
Gotcha. That makes sense. So if I were on the Great Lakes and I called you guys, would you refer me to them or would you guys come get me instead of them
I'm not
if I called
100%
you guys
sure
first?
the logistics on that now. I
Hmm.
know when I was stationed on the Great Lakes the first time, I was in Harbor Beach, and then I actually retired out of Sheboygan. I was on the Cutter Mackinac. If we receive a direct stress call, so if we channel 16 and someone calls in, they call in a Mayday or an SOS or something like that, and we respond to it, we'll respond directly to it. However, if it gets called into um, like now currently I work at the sheriff's department, and we'll get calls as well. And when the sheriff's department gets a phone call, what we'll do is we'll call up to a sector, and sector will call up to district, and then it has to go through all these loops before someone that gets paid a whole lot more and a heavier collar than me gets to make the decision on who goes and gets it. Um,
Gotcha.
Generally, the rule of thumb is life over limb. If you got the call, go. It's better to kind of one of those. It's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. If somebody's in distress, go save them. Deal with the paperwork later.
Yeah, no, definitely. So you brought up you had two favorite units. What was the second one?
My second one was actually my last unit that I retired out of. It was the Coast Guard Cutter Mackinac, which is it's the only icebreaker in the Great Lakes.
Oh, really? I figured we would
It,
have, one in each lake because I'm assuming it's not exactly easy to get one of those between to each lake.
no, it's not. We have other boats, so we have our smaller tugs too. In the summertime they'll operate with a barge and they'll tend buoys. Um, However, the Mackinac was a unique boat. It was the only boat of its class in the Coast Guard. It looked similar to some of our other buoy tenders, what we call 225s. They have a black hull, and then our specific icebreakers all have red hulls. This was a red hull. It looks similar, but was built totally different. Traditionally, um, boats like that are going to have a prop and a rudder, whereas the Mackinac, we had a thing called azipods, and the boat had three giant diesel generators that operated an electrical system, and our boat was essentially an electric, like a locomotive.
Hmm.
And the propulsion for that was two individual azipods on the back that could rotate 360 degrees. So it allowed us when we do buoy tending and things like that, we could maintain position for setting a buoy for any kind of marine traffic
Hmm.
well within the limitations of that buoy. And then when we break ice, you can use that to maneuver. You can point the pods in one direction or point them in the other direction. So as you're pulling through the ice, you can blow the ice out of the channel so that the ship doesn't have to re-break through it, because you'll get what's called refreeze. If you're breaking ice, you're making ice. So if you go through, you cut a channel, you break ice, and you blow all the other ice out, and it's cold, well, new ice is going to form in that open water. So
Hmm.
now you got more ice and more ice and more ice. So using those pods in specific ways would allow you to maneuver that ice when you would break it, as well as we could actually go through the ice backwards and chew it up like a blender.
Oh, that's actually really cool.
And unique to that ship, it had two 10-foot diameter stainless steel props. We couldn't use brass because the brass would actually get chewed up by the ice. So we had two 10-foot stainless props on there.
Yeah, I never really thought about what the props are made of on ships and stuff. That and it's freshwater, so you shouldn't have any issues with rust. Plus, stainless steel is completely different metal.
We'd have some things that would get rusty, but not too terrible. And you don't get a lot of the buildup either. So we're not getting barnacles or any kind of, um, sea life buildup on our ship, as well as like when we do buoys. So I did a TDY on an ocean going buoy tender, and it was out of Rhode Island, the Coast Guard Cutter Oak. And we went up to the Bay of Fundy, um, and Nova Scotia area in Canada. And when you'd pull a buoy up for that, you pull it up and then you pull all the chain up on deck, and it would be absolutely covered. Each link is at roughly an inch in diameter for each link, and I bet it had 40 pounds of sea life on it. And we'd winch it up, and you got to clean all the sea life off of it, measure the chain for wear and tear, things like that. Whereas in the Great Lakes, you don't have as much of the sea life build up on the chain. No algae, no seaweed. Um, you're not getting crustaceans or mollusks or anything like that build up on the buoys or the chains themselves. Most of it's just bird crap.
Yeah, which not too bad to deal with. Unlike all the sea life you were dealing with.
Oh yeah, and it's a lot better because the stuff on the ocean, when you got all the sea life on there and then you're blowing it off the buoys and the chains, it smells terrible.
I can only imagine just how bad it is with the some of the barnacles are potentially dead and
Yeah, but the Mackinac is my favorite unit, and not necessarily just be because of my job. So I was independent on the Mackinac. I didn't have anybody above me, anybody below me. My direct boss, was the XO of the ship. And I had my own sick bay. I was in charge of a crew of up to 55 and in charge of their readiness and then emergency things like that. But it was more the crew and the command. It was hands down the best command I had my entire 20-year career.
That's always good when you have a good command and also coworkers and all that. So I know we have the Bridger unit in the Sioux, Michigan. I know they've done for their part of their annual training or just training exercises. They've pretended that there is a quote unquote issue or something going on at Mackinac Island and they have to rescue people. Did you guys play a part in that training exercise?
Um, Not that I'm aware of. We didn't do it while I was stationed on the ship. I don't know if they did, if that was after I transferred or retired, but I was not involved in any of that.
It was a couple of years ago, so I wasn't sure if you got got to do anything with the bridging unit in the Sioux.
No, I actually had a unique experience. So before the Mackinac, I was at a MEPS unit in New York. I was stationed on Army base at Fort Hamilton. And that was joint forces. We had all the branches of service were there because it was, a MEPS unit where people are joining. And I was in a unique situation. I only had 3 years left in my career when I transferred to that unit. I had no interest in trying to advance because I had just put on E6, and by the time I'd advanced, I wouldn't have my high three, so I'm not going to get paid as an E7 anyways.
Makes
Um,
sense.
I knew that I was going to get out at 20, so I talked to our detailer and I said, "Hey, I already know I'm above the cut. I'm going to advance as soon as I get to this unit. Are you going to fleet me up and allow me to stay here because it's a 3 year tour. I have 3 years left in my career. I have no ambitions to advance after this. I'm going to retire 100%. Oh, yeah, yeah, perfect. Yeah, we got you. You'll be there. So I actually geo bachelored. My family stayed back in Virginia, and I went up to New York, and I would travel back and forth on weekends and stuff like that to Virginia. Fast forward, I got there in February. Fast forward to um, roughly December time frame, and I get a phone call and an email from another Coast Guard member out in Washington.
Oh, I lost you a little bit for a second. You got a phone
There it
call and
goes.
email from
Yeah. Another Coast Guard member out in Washington asking what it was like to be at MEPS because that's his number one pick for when he transfers. And I had no information on that. I thought, well, that's interesting because I'm here and I was told I was staying here. Shortly after that, I got an email after some phone calls from my direct supervisor on the Army base from our detailer in the Coast Guard, and he said, "Give me your picks tomorrow." Holy smokes! Okay, so I put down a bunch of picks, and I got slated for actually a substance abuse specialist coordinator at Portsmouth Naval Hospital in Virginia. I was going to go back to Virginia, kind of made some plans to retire there. So started looking at houses, getting setting up, hey, I'm going to be here a couple years and retire. Well, then orders came through, and my order said Coast Guard Cutter Mackinac, which is nothing that we talked about, nowhere near
Mhm.
Portsmouth, Virginia, anything. So it kind of threw a wrench in things and put me up here. I reported to the ship, and exactly 1 month later, I put in my retirement letter because you can do your retirement letter up to 24 months now, 2 years before retirement. So I reported in, and 1 month later, I dropped my retirement letter. So I technically short toured on the Mac, and all those are 3 year tours on our cutters.
Gotcha. Well, at least you didn't have to do 2 years of going from New York to Virginia, or 2 more years of that, would say.
Yeah, yeah. If anybody's ever driven that I-95 corridor from New York, New Jersey, Delaware, down through Virginia, it's not a good time.
I can only imagine construction season and how awful it is.
It's not even construction; it's just the sheer amount of traffic. I lived on Staten Island, right across the Verrazano Bridge from Fort Hamilton in Brooklyn. And Staten Island, God, it's only like 10 miles long. Um, would take anywhere between 2 to 3 hours to get off of.
Oh, that's gross.
and it was 5 to 6 lanes wide on both sides and absolutely bumper to bumper traffic.
Yeah, that is ridiculous. So yeah, I mean, it does suck that you had to change your retirement location plans, but I hope it worked out better for you.
Oh yeah, it worked out fantastic. I grew up vacationing in northern Michigan, a little bit west of here in the Indian River area. But I came up, I looked at a bunch of houses. I found a nice house. It was stick built, double insulation, nice town and area. Bought the house, got a decent property, and now that I'm retired, working at the sheriff's department, I'm more involved in the community where my kids go to school. I coached football last year, and I sit on the board of directors for our baseball team as well. So it's a good time. I like it. I like the small town vibe, and the traffic here is generally maybe a farmer or a drunk stuck at a stop sign.
Mhm. Oh, I think I lost you a little bit again. Yeah, basically you've got no traffic and
Yeah, yeah,
think we've got it back.
yeah.
Oh,
We should be back now. I just got a thing that
okay.
said low bandwidth. Um, but yeah, no, very low traffic, and being involved in the community is awesome.
So it sounds like your community is what, 2,000 people or something like that?
Actually, the county I live in, Presque County, we're 680-ish square miles, and the whole county's population is 13,000 people.
Okay, that
So
is,
the town that where I live and where my kids go to school and stuff is significantly smaller.
yeah, I can see that. I like being in small towns where spend a bunch of my time. Um, let's see. So what was it like working for and being a part of the Coast Guard during the height of the coronavirus? 'Cause I'm assuming that played its own tricks and challenges, especially if you were on a boat at the time. Oh, he's fixing a cable real quick. And don't worry, people, I'll repeat that question if he needs it.
There we go. Can you
Okay.
hear me?
Yes, I can hear you
Yeah,
again.
I caught that. You asked me what it was like working during the coronavirus. Um, it was terrible. I was stationed at Yorktown, which is one of our major training facilities in the Coast Guard. That's where we train our bosun's mates um, and some of our electronics rates, and it was a major training base for us. And it was tough because so many different regulations came out, whether it was 2 weeks of quarantine or a week of quarantine, or you have to be symptom free or not symptom free or anything. And we'd have a class that would report aboard, and they'd have to go through a full screening. So you got 180 kids that show up on a Tuesday at midnight, and now you got to put them through a whole screening. Or if somebody on base comes down with coronavirus and it's a student, well, now you got to have a spot to quarantine them. So then we got to change up how the barracks and our hotel on base is and everything else. And um, part of it, I was working 18-hour days, six days a week, and then other parts of it, because I had children and they closed schools in Virginia. They just did school from home on
Mhm.
computers. So myself and some of the other people in the clinic, they actually split up the schedule, and I worked like a night shift. So I'd be at home with my kids all day while they're doing school, and then I would go to work and work a night shift.
Ooh, that would not be fun at all.
It, like I said, it was terrible, and I ended up moving to New York at the tail end of the COVID stuff, and it was still even involved there where they still had some mask mandates and things like that, and it was definitely not my favorite time in the Coast Guard for sure.
No, I can see that. That's definitely its own challenge with, that kind of influx consistently of random people from all across the country showing up to, you know, to train and all that.
Right. And if you've been to boot camp, everybody knows about the boot camp crud. You know, you've got different
Hmm.
viruses, different bacterias, everything coming from all corners of the country, and they're all congregating in one small area. And so it made an absolute breeding place for people getting sick. And then you throw coronavirus in there too, and it would just spread like wildfire.
Yeah, no, I can totally get that from just my training time and AIT and basic with going from basic a big open bay with lots of people to, two people in a room with a shared bathroom to the guys next to you in AIT. Um, so changing topics now, let's get into motocross, something that you've been doing to for your mental and physical health.
Yeah. I grew up riding dirt bikes with my dad. That's where I fell in love with actually northern Michigan. We'd come up here and we go to the Tomahawk Trail system over in Indian River, and we'd ride that for a week during vacation and stuff. But I've been on either something motorized or two wheels since I've been about 3 or 4 years old. There's a very short period of my life where I didn't have a dirt bike or a motorcycle, but other than that, even in Alaska, I raced dirt bikes up in Alaska. There was a small track up there that we'd race on, and that's it's 100% a gateway to helping with mental health.
Yeah. That's my go-to sport as well. It's just I challenge myself to okay, I gotta next lap. I want to see if I can hit this corner a little bit better, a little bit more, um, maintain my traction a little bit more, not get too much wheel spin. Um, Try and get comfortable hitting a rather big double that we've got at Morelands, which is one of the tracks that I like to go to here.
Not doing the Heckman Huck.
No, I'm not.
That's a leap on that one.
Yeah, no, I'm not doing that. Those there's a small double that turns into a triple for those of you who don't know. There's also a big double that you could potentially land a tabletop if you've got a 450. Um, and it's a you're chucking yourself out there.
It's a leap for sure. Like that's
Hmm.
you got to nail the corner perfect and be on the gas for that one.
Yeah, no, definitely. Um, yeah. Um, So you've actually made it to Loretta's. What class did you make it to Loretta's in?
So we've had a few people in the Vet MX as well as people who are involved with OVN now as well fight really really hard um, with the AMA and Feld, and I'm not sure who all's involved to get a warrior class available. And the one year that they did it one year, and they were worried about low turnout numbers, and it ended up being a fairly low turnout. But I raced the warrior class, and there was they hosted those at regionals. You didn't actually get to go to the ranch. It was so there should be. I I haven't heard from anybody else who's won one, but there should be at least I believe 8 national champions in the warrior class because I mean you get the trophy and everything else and it says national
Hmm.
champion number 1 and everything, but it's not a registered AMA class, so you don't get the AMA number plate. But they did hand out the Monster Energy big old trophies and everything else for it. I raced that over in Pennsylvania.
Gotcha. Yeah, I remember hearing talks about that, being a VenomX member myself. Um, and there was talk, I think about it would have been at Red Bud. I was like, as long as my drill schedule lines up, I could go out to be a body. I'm gonna be in the way, hopefully not in somebody's way on the track because I'm not that skilled, but I can be a body. Um, Eventually, I think it'll hopefully get there. It just takes time with getting the class pushed out to everybody, and then MX Sports seeing, we could make some extra money here.
Right. And that's kind of what it seems with a lot of the big national events, whether it's, Spring a Ding two-stroke nationals or whether it's the Gatorback in Thanksgiving down in Florida or Loretta's, any of those big events trying to push that, and they've gotten so big, and now you've got all these people with factory support that it's not really amateur racing anymore.
Hmm. That and there's too many classes. They have to cut some down, and I'm hoping they get rid of some of the C classes from like Loretta's, not necessarily some of the big amateur events.
Yeah, so some of the issues I see with Loretta is, yeah, the classes are huge, but like the regional that I went to, there was no kids. It was all adult classes. So the regionals are kind of set up a little bit separate. You'll have the 50s, 65s, 85s, super minis, schoolboy classes. Those are actually going to be on a different day at a different track versus all the, 20 plus, 25 plus, 30, 35, all the plus classes. Um, are going to be in a separate day. So that cuts it down a little bit. But then when you get to the ranch, that's why it takes a week to go through the ranch because there's just so many classes.
Yeah, I didn't realize that they split them up. Like, I knew like different days potentially for like, like Red Bud, but I figured they had all the classes there, pretty much the same time.
Yeah, it was interesting that the one that I went to in Pleasure Valley because it was just all adult classes. So I'm used to you go to the motocross track and there's 500 kids running around on pit bikes and side by sides and everything else and having a good time. There was nothing. By 10 o'clock, everybody was crashed out. It was quiet. It was an
It was a,
interesting experience.
yeah, I've been to Red Bud for the the vet thing that goes. I can't remember the exact thing, but it's essentially a veteran only, like vet
Like,
classes, age group only, no kids or
right.
anything like that.
Yeah.
Um, that goes around the country. I've been to Redbud for that, and that was actually like same thing, quiet, peaceful. Things got done at a reasonable time. There were kids running around, but not quite like, if you go there for Fourth of July weekend.
Oh yeah. Like this year, the Red Bud National is going to be an absolute
It's
like
yeah.
it's going to be a banger. I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic time, but it's going to be
Hmm.
packed being that it's on 4th of July.
Yeah, and America's 250th birthday as well.
And
The
then Red
just
Bud is just known for being the track. Like the
Yeah.
crowds at Red Bud. I last weekend I watched the opener at Fox Raceway, and like looking at the crowd, I've seen bigger crowds at amateur events. Like they showed the grandstands in front of the um where they were getting trophies and stuff, and there was like 50 people there. Like
Hmm.
I'm used to when I was stationed in Virginia going, to Budds Creek or something and seeing like 100,000 people. Or you go to Red Bud in Michigan and there's just,
Hmm.
I mean, as far as you can see in every direction is just
You
people.
Yeah, you could barely see the grass on the ground on the infield
Right.
for because there's just that many spectators. Yeah, it's definitely different. It'll definitely be cool. I don't know if I'm going there this year or not. I normally do the booth for Betamax, but we're here for OVN. Uh, so what made you join the Ambassador Athlete program and how'd you hear about it?
So I actually heard about it from Alex. Um, I when I was in Virginia, we used to race a lot at Lake Sugar Tree, and that's where Jason lived there at the time. Alex was there all the time, and there was actually a huge, excuse me, huge Vet MX group that was kind of involved there. And Ryan, fantastic for veterans. All, outpourings of love. He'd help us out. We'd have ride days. Warrior classes, you name it, and he would bend over backwards for veterans, and it was awesome. So I was going down there and doing a lot of racing. I raced their indoor series. I raced their arena cross outdoor series. We'd go down for Loretta's events and other races and stuff like that. And Alex told me about OVN, started asking about it, and then I reached out to Tony and asked him about it. And working in the medical field and mental health that's a huge soft spot for me. Um, I do anything and everything I can to help out people, and mental health is a big one, and it's something that um, I'm sure you being in the military too, you can understand. there's plausible deniability with the military. They say we have
Mm.
these programs available, and then they make a million hoops and red tape that you have to jump through and cut in order to access those programs. So when someone has problems with military mental health, they say, well, these programs were in place. But what they don't tell you is how much red tape you got to go through to access those programs. So with OVN, it helped me, I could reach out to more people, and the people that I'm seeing, which is kind of, there's you look at how
Oh, I think your audio or your video cut out,
much, and that's
unfortunately.
most of the stuff that OVN's involved with tends to be action sports. Or am I back
That
yet?
was getting your back. The audio sped up significantly,
Oh,
catching you up. So yeah, talking about how OVN's big in action sports, and there's just different people who
right. And
use
it's
sports.
yeah, it's a different avenue to reach out to people and to help. Like I said, the whole reason I joined the Coast Guard is because I wanted to help. I worked in healthcare. I want to help people. Um, I've been in the low places. I've been in a terrible mindset. I know what that's like. I don't want anybody else to have to go through that. And the ones that are going through it, I don't want them to do it alone. And like the bracelets that we get, just
Hmm.
be there. Sometimes just be in there, whether you're sitting on a couch and dead silent next to somebody. All it takes is being there. But OVN gave me an opportunity and some toolkits and some things that I can use to reach people in a different avenue. Whether most stuff everybody hears about anything for a veteran is Facebook, social media, Instagram,
Hmm.
TikTok, you name it. They're getting it through those avenues. Whereas, you go to a motocross track, the last thing you're thinking about is, you know, oh hey, there's someone here with some tools that could help me with my mental health. And motocross is the tool that I have right now. And some people that might be
Hmm.
their only tool. So it gave me that avenue to reach out, and I really like their mission. So I reached out to Tony and asked him about becoming an ambassador athlete.
Yeah, I saw quite a few VetaMX guys joining, and I'm like, you know what, maybe I can, help out in my own way, do something for them. And then one of our last ambassador athlete calls, someone brought up, hey, are we going to get someone to do a podcast again or get people to be guests? I was like, I can do that. I think I've got the equipment. I can probably throw the episodes together, ask people, talk to people and all that. And I think it's turned out pretty well.
Yeah, yeah. The ones that I've seen and listened to either on Spotify or watched on YouTube have been fantastic.
Yeah, I had to learn a bunch of editing stuff to make the YouTube ones look as good as they do. But thankfully, it doesn't seem it's a perishable skill for me in that aspect. Setting it up for three people, now that took a second to finagle it all.
Right, right. And if you're not doing it on $1 million budget like some of the big national podcasts that have it, it's got its ups and downs. There's some quirks you got to figure out.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it looks pretty good. I hope it sounds pretty good. Um, so any plans to try to go to Loretta's in another class?
As much as it pains me to say it, no. Um, I've kind of gotten to a point now. My son, he's my riding buddy now, and he's getting ready to turn 9 years old, and he's got a bike, and I'm kind of more focused on him riding, and we ride in the woods, we ride in the yard. Um, I think a lot of my racing is probably to a point where, I'll do some here and there for fun, but for the most part, it's going to be track riding and helping him and let him race. He wants to get involved in some woods races. We're in northern Michigan, you got to race in the woods. So this year, he's finally at a point where he can ride the 110 through the woods and trail ride, and then he's got a works edition Cobra that we can take to the track.
Oh, nice. Yeah, the Cobras that from what I've seen are really nice, especially and they're made here, which I found out,
Right.
which was kind of surprising. I
Yeah,
was
not
like,
too far from you.
no, not at all.
Nope, I
Maybe
I don't see a whole lot of races in my future, and I actually I recently picked up a an adventure bike. I got a new Yamaha T7, and I got some big interest in doing some rallies on that. I have a friend that did the Mint 400 out in Vegas, and he actually did that on a Harley Sportster that he converted, put dirt tires on it and bigger tires. And he had a blast, and that'd be something that I'd be interested in doing on the T7, but more into the adventure riding, exploring the outdoors, going out and just getting in the woods and disappearing for a little bit.
No, you are in prime adventure bike territory. That and getting to a track might be a bit of a hike too.
Yeah, we have a local track in Alpena that's about an hour away from me, and that's the closest. But they don't host races. They have a track there, and then they do the bump and run cars. That's the big place that does bump and runs, which is
Hmm.
it's kind of a circle track and a demo derby put together. They run around a circle track, but they can hit each other,
Okay.
and it's a good time to watch. But they have a track there. Um, there's one just south of that, and then there's a couple over by Gaylord, and then Ten Pines, I believe, is the closest one to me in Michigan that hosts actual AMA events.
They do. We added them to the Warrior class schedule last year as they joined this the District 14 schedule, not in the championship yet. And I've heard some good things. They took a lot of feedback last year, and as far as I know, they've improved a good bit. That's one track I would like to go to, camp for a weekend.
Let me know when you go. I'll come. It's I think it's within 2 hours of me, so it's fairly close in track terms. Like when I lived in Virginia and we'd go over to Lake Sugar Tree. I lived in Yorktown, and that was over on the west side, on the North Carolina West Virginia border area, and it was a 4 hour drive for us to get over there.
Oh, geez, that would be if you're going for a day or two.
Oh no, it was the weekend. Yeah, every time we'd go, we'd show
Hmm.
up on a Friday night and we'd stay the whole weekend. Wouldn't go home till Sunday. Even for
Yeah,
the they ran an indoor series, and there was a couple races where there's one that had an ice storm, took out the power at the hotel, and we actually roughed it a little bit. I stayed with one of my buddies in his camper right at the track.
geez. I mean, it should be warm, unlike a hotel without power.
Yeah, I mean it was warm enough.
Yeah.
I've been in worse situations.
No, you were in Alaska and rescuing crab fishermen
Yeah,
during bad weather, so I completely get being in worse, unfortunately.
yeah. So I'm looking forward to doing a little bit more riding this year. My schedule between being on the ship, my whole last year on the ship, we were underway quite a bit. Whether we were out breaking ice, doing buoy runs, we went from Buffalo, New York to Duluth, Minnesota, and we were back and forth all through the Great Lakes for that. And it kind of cut down on any kind of racing just due to scheduling. And then I retired and trying to find a job after retirement, and getting VA appointments, getting a new job, just getting the schedule set up. And now I'm at a spot where I know my schedule, everything's good. So I'm looking forward to doing some more riding.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. I did too much racing after getting back into riding and not racing as a kid. To I get the whole I just want to ride. I want to put in some laps. I want to improve a little bit, but also, with your youngest, definitely get him into improving and being able to ride and stuff like that.
Yeah, I get a big thrill out of watching him when he finally, you know, all, he's starting to get to the age where when I tell him to do something, he doesn't quite listen as good. But when it comes to riding dirt bikes, if I give him a tip or a pointer or some criticism, he normally follows it to a T. And watching the gears turn in his head, and the other day we were doing some rutted turns in the yard, and I was giving him some pointers, and I saw him looking at it and trying to evaluate and figure it out, and then that first time he goes through and does what I tell him to do and just rips through a rut, and then takes off on our makeshift janky tire jump that we
Hmm.
have. But everything worked how it should work, and watching that look on his face when it works, and then he goes back and repeats it's fun seeing that and seeing him
Hmm.
evolve and learn hill climbs, and then riding in loose sand, which we have plenty of that up here. And and technique, and trying to get him really dialed in on fundamentals. It's a lot of fun watching that.
No, I don't blame you. My youngest is almost 8, and I wish I could get him into riding. And it's not his thing, and it's not my daughter's thing either. But they'll be fine hanging out at the track for the most part. They'll complain some.
Yeah.
Yeah. Music is another thing that you do to help with your mental health. What instruments or instrument do you play?
uh, all of them. I From a young age, I started taking piano lessons, and I took piano lessons for about 6 years. And as a boy in the late '90s, early 2000s who plays piano, I took a lot of criticism, and I got made fun of quite a bit. It helped me learn how to throw hands. But in eighth grade, I quit piano lessons and picked up the guitar. And I'd always been involved in music in school, and I've always had a love for music. My whole family's musically inclined. My dad plays instruments, and I anything you hand me, whether I know how to play it or not, I'll figure it out.
Hmm.
But mainly, I'll play piano. I can play guitar, sing. I was a percussionist in high school, so I played the drums and all the percussion instruments as well. And then currently in my house now, um, I mean, you can see one of my PA speakers behind me, or if I move, I think I got a couple
Hmm.
guitars back there
Yeah,
too.
I see some amps and all
Yeah,
kinds of cool
yeah.
things.
I got 12 guitars, a drum set, a PA system, and then granted, it's not functioning the best right now, but I've got a pretty good setup studio wise with monitors, my desk, and my audio interface, and some different things as well. So, um, and anything involved in music, I'm just a big fan of.
Yeah, I've been around music a ton because my brother started playing in middle school. He went from I want to say he ended on baritone, but he was playing trumpet, but then his lips got too big as he got older, so he couldn't play it anymore. Um, and I want to say he almost started to learn French horn or something like that, something weird and different. Um, yeah, music's been around me, my whole life, not just listening to it. So I can totally get if you start on one instrument, total moving around to other ones.
Right. I was fortunate enough when I was younger. My parents, they like to go to concerts, and they love music. So in the house, we always had music playing. My mom and dad were always singing. My grandfather, he always had a record player, and there was music playing, and he's always dancing around. And um, going to concerts. My first concert, I went and saw Alice Cooper and Ted Nugent on New Year's Eve. And Ted Nugent came out on stage riding a buffalo, shot his bow and arrow with a flaming arrow through his guitar, and then ripped a guitar solo. And I was in fourth grade. I saw that, and I literally looked at my parents. I said, "I want to do that.
Yeah.
I want to do that." And rock and roll has just been a huge part of my life.
Yeah, I've seen Alice Cooper live before, and he's still got it. He's
Oh, 100%. We went and saw him last year in Saginaw, and no opener, no locals, no nothing. They fired up the stage. Alice Cooper came out, played for 2 hours. It's the same songs that I've heard him play the other 7 times I've seen him,
mhm.
and it rocked out just as good as all the other times. Like, he is a 100% sure thing. You can go to one of those shows and you're gonna love it.
Bringing it back to mental health, um, and because Alice Cooper's like a good example because he's a pretty smart man, um, from what I've seen. I think keeping away from illicit substances and not using that. He probably did use them at some point, but stopped early enough on to keep his health and also his voice going, um, is what I think. Um,
Oh, for sure. He didn't fall into the '80s Sunset Strip hole
mhm.
like most of the hair metal bands did.
That, and I think he's been his with his wife his in like as he got famous or right before he got famous, like the entire time. So that there's got to
Yeah.
be something said about that too. Like just that
Oh, for sure.
stability.
For sure. For sure.
Uh, so you went to Full Sail for audio engineering and music production. I'm assuming while you're in the Coast Guard, you don't just graduate after retirement from 7 months ago ish, or maybe a little bit
Right.
longer.
So, Full Sail's a little different than most schools. They do have a in-person campus as well as online campus. Um, I had applied to Berkeley School of Music. I got accepted, and then shortly after that, found out that there was no way for me to attend because they didn't offer any online classes. So then I started kind of doing some more research, and Full Sail University was fairly new at the time and kind of upcoming, um, but fantastic. It was the number two music school right behind Berkeley. So I
Oh,
applied, and I used some of my GI Bill and tuition assistance to go to school there while I was stationed in Alabama. But their program's a little different. It's similar to military training. Most colleges, you'll have three or four different classes going at the same time. The way that Full Sail did it, you did one thing for a month, and that was your class. You got all your hours done in a month. So I was working a full time job. I was in school full time, and then I was also in a band that played about 3 nights a week. And that was, I bit off way more than I could chew with that one. But
I can see that.
yeah, so like, and it was cool though, because like a military school, it was geared towards what you were doing. So like my physics class that I took in college, it wasn't, Isaac Newton and the apple and things like that. It was movie physics and sound physics. So we did an action movie segment where the physics of what it would actually be like if somebody got blown up or if somebody got shot or somebody wrecked a car. What are the actual physics of that? Because, I'm sure you being in the military, you watch John Wick and you're counting how many rounds are coming out of that firearm. And, the sound effects or being involved in motorcycles. I don't think I've ever seen a movie where the sound of the motorcycle was actually the motorcycle in the movie.
Yeah, like Terminator 2, I think it is, where he's riding
He's
the
a
CR
17.
or XR80 and
Yeah.
he's just shifting so many times. You're just like, that thing only shifts 5 times at the most.
Right, right. So it was geared more towards like movie physics, or we did a sound effects class and how different sound effects are used. A lot of the things that you hear aren't actually what you're hearing.
Oh, I lost you a little bit again. Sound effects aren't what you hear, is what was. Oh, we're back. Oh, audio's not back. Give it a second. Listeners, nope, still not. Zoom might have messed with your audio setting again and changed your mic, which happens, people. Zoom is not always the best.
There we go. It's
Yeah.
I getting a pop up for unstable network connection. Um, but where I was going with that, the movie Twister. Everybody's seen
Mhm.
Twister. The sound of that tornado in Twister is actually a slowed down camel groan. So someone recorded a camel groaning and then they slowed it way down, and that's the sound of the tornado in that movie.
Yeah, I've seen stuff from the audio engineers who are like, so I took mayonnaise, then I took this cheese grater, and then I took a hard piece of wood and I just kind of rubbed them all together and boom, there's your crackle effects for fireworks and or something silly
Yeah,
like that. And you're just like, how do you come up with like, you know what sounds like a gunshot? Me smacking the lid on my water bottle or something like
right, right. And you go through those classes, and like it's one class a month. So it's an accelerated course because you're able to just focus on one class, and you can put, sometimes my lectures are 3 to 4 hours long. And then, you were just knocking it out one class right after another, month after month. So it was a really cool school. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
I can also see it's more beneficial to focus on one subject the whole time. That and it also builds into potentially whatever you're doing next.
Right, right, yeah. And they set you up. I get emails. I still actually get emails from the school for freelance work. They help you out with freelance work. So like mixing and mastering commercials, like TV commercials, or when you're watching TV and it's you got it turned way up so you can hear whatever you're watching, and all of a sudden a commercial comes on and it's 10 times louder or it's quiet and you can't
Hmm.
hear it, and going through and correcting those things, or live sound. I could go to any venue right now and I could step in for their audio engineer and run live sound for a venue. Or as small as like a radio station, just operating a radio station and running sound for that. It taught a lot and gave a pretty vast knowledge. Is it the most useful? No, I'm not making a career of it, but
Hmm.
I use some of my GI Bill. I save the rest of it for my kids. I use some tuition assistance, but I got out of it what I wanted to get out of it. I got, I got my certificates and my degree, and being able to understand the things that I understand. I got out of it what I wanted to get out of it. I can play, I can record my music, and that was the main thing I wanted.
No, that's really cool that you got exactly what you wanted out of it, and you can use it in your personal life and not be frustrated and going, okay, well, how do I make it not sound so flat? How do I give this some volume, some to make it sound like I'm actually playing it right now?
Right. And the other aspect of that, I'm not chasing a paycheck with it. Like I
Yeah.
did it, I did it for me. It was, I gave the government 20 years of my life. At the time it was only 13, but I had signed up, so I'm going to use one of those benefits that I get, and I went to college.
Yeah. No, everyone who has the benefits should use them. They're yours. You earned them, regardless of what you did. Um, So you talked a lot, or sorry, you mentioned earlier that you're really involved with your community. How do you coach UA football last year, potentially into this upcoming season? Um, what are you involved with, and are you how are you helping, people with their mental health? Because I'm assuming you're finding something to help people with.
Right. So, community wise, I sit on our board of directors for baseball. I'm the safety director for baseball, and I didn't coach just due to scheduling conflicts. It's kind of
Hmm.
tough for me to do that, but being the safety guy, and I've umpired a few games, which has been awesome. I get the best seat in the house for that. And
Hmm.
then I coached. This year was the first year for flag football. So I coached my son's team in flag football and had an absolute blast doing that. And then my job, I'm corrections officer and dispatch. We have a small jail that doesn't have a ton of people, and our corrections officers as well do dispatch. So um, when it gets towards helping people with mental health, I answer the phone for 911. So I'm that first line. I'm the first person someone hears, whether it's a mental health emergency, a physical emergency, or whatever. And that's kind of where I'm at for helping people out.
No, that's cool that you can still, do all these different things to better your community and also provide for your family too at the same time.
Yeah, it pays the bills. It's a absolute fantastic crew that works there. Our sheriff's department, the sheriff in our county, he's absolutely awesome. The people I work with, they're great. We've got a couple of other veterans that I work with as well, and it's a really solid staff. And we're fortunate enough that our jail is not huge, and we
Hmm.
don't have a whole lot of residents currently, so it's not bad.
Now I can see summer being more drunk take time or than
Yeah,
anything.
yeah. I mean, you living in Michigan, you understand.
Hmm.
Summertime, that's when everybody in Michigan's traveling. They're at the campgrounds. They're on vacation. All the little
They're on the
towns
boat on the
have,
lake.
yeah, they're on the boat on the lake.
Yeah.
All the little towns have their festivals. And then where I'm at with dispatch, we dispatch multiple fire departments, multiple ambulance, as well as state, county, city. police, and DNR.
Oh,
So we're we definitely we work for our paycheck some days, and then
hmm.
some days it's quiet. With our county being not very densely populated, a lot of our calls are we have a lot of dirt roads, we have a lot of two track, and there's still quite a lot of people in my county that live down some two track unimproved roads and Homestead.
Yeah,
So, so trying to figure that out, and behind the scenes, at dispatch, not a lot of people see what all goes on to get somebody out to you to help.
yeah. The GPS is great, but when you are showing a field and you don't see any roads on the map, then you kind of have to use every reference you have available to figure out, okay, how did they get there? They said they lived there.
Right. And a lot of people assume it's like the movies, you dial 911, someone picks up the phone, and, some satellite just sends a signal and shows me exactly where you're at. It does not work that way. Most of the time, I'll get maybe a Latin long. And if you don't know how to read a chart for latitude and longitude, then what? So we have some programs where you can plug that in on the computer and it'll help you out. And I would say 95% of our 911 calls will show me a phone number for a callback and give me a Latin long. And then the longer that you're on the phone with them, the more it can kind of pinpoint their location. But there's some that you only get 5 seconds and then the phone hangs up. Or,
Hmm.
being such a rural county, there's a lot of places we don't even have cell phone coverage.
Yeah,
So
that's a big pain.
yeah, it's you know, it's got its ups and downs, and there's some stuff that you love about it, some stuff you hate about it, but all in all, at the end of the day, you're the one that's there. You're the first person that someone talks to, and generally when someone dials 911, the worst moment of their life. So it, just a friendly voice sometimes is all that they need for the help.
Yeah, someone to comfort and reassure him while the DNR comes and catches that pesky poacher or whatever's happening.
Right.
Uh, but I think that's it for all the questions that I kind of had, unless there's something you want to piggyback on or something I missed.
No, no, we covered quite a bit.
Um, are there any other hobbies that we didn't touch off on that help you out?
I mean, I'm one of those people. When I go into a hobby, I'm into the hobby 100%. But the two that I always fall back on tend to be music and motorcycles, and the common denominator on that is both those hobbies. You can't focus on anything else other than the task at hand. So if you're playing guitar, it's to the point like if I'm playing guitar, if I'm playing a live event or anything like that, I won't even drink a beer.
Hmm.
Um, because for me it requires 100% focus. But because I'm focused on playing the guitar, or I'm focused, if I jump out of this rut, it's inherently dangerous on a dirt bike. You come out of a rut, like
Hmm.
you can bust yourself up pretty bad. When you're playing your guitar, or you're singing, you're at a music venue, you mess up. There's people there watching. So you have to stay focused, and that focus forces you. You can't think about how crappy was my day. I woke up depressed this morning, or you know, if you're having, whether it's PTSD symptoms, things like that, it forces your mind away from those things, and that's why I generally fall back on those two. I moved to Michigan, so of course I had to buy a boat. Um, and I love being out on the water. I love being on the boat, and that's not as much as that forcing your mental direction towards
Hmm.
one thing, but that's probably one of my other hobbies. Is I like to be out on the boat. I hunt. I fish. I live in northern Michigan. Like I,
Hmm.
I do all the northern Michigan things, and I absolutely love it.
No, it's definitely a great place, and we'll have to link up to go to Ten Pines sometime soon. I also have to look at their schedule to see what they've got going on.
For sure, and get you a DNR sticker. Michigan, they got, what was it, like 46,000 miles
Oh, something ridiculous.
of trails, and that's just the documented ones. Um, from my yard, I can access the trail system. So
Uh,
I have access to the trail system, which is another reason the T7. I ride out my driveway. My road turns into a stone road, and then it turns into the trail system. So being able to just go out and explore, and then across the street from my house is 19,000 acres of state land. So
Jeez.
there's no houses, no people. It's just the woods, wilderness,
Hmm.
and sinkhole lakes.
Sinkhole lakes?
Yeah. So like if you look around Gaylord, there's a lot of them that are perfectly round. It looks like craters, but they're sinkhole lakes, and it just a sinkhole forms and then it fills up with water.
Oh, geez. I didn't realize we had that kind of problem.
It's not like, I wouldn't say it's a problem, but we have plenty of them. And then after the torrential rain on top of the ridiculous amount of snow we had this year, and I'm
Hmm.
sure you've seen in the news the flooding that we had up here.
Oh,
Um,
I went to Grayling, like right to count ammo for part of my annual training time, for that quarter. And we were up there and I'm like, you guys just got the snow to start melting? Like, yep. As it's been raining and raining and raining, I'm like, I can see the lakes forming and ponds forming everywhere. It's just,
we still have standing water in areas. I was out riding last weekend, um, and going back on some of the trails, and one of the trails I went back on was a river. There was no trail there anymore. It was 5 foot deep water, and
I lost you. It was 5 foot deep water and moving fast, I'm assuming is what you said.
yeah, it was moving fairly quickly. So it was, there's a lot of the trail system, and then we had that, and then the year before that we had the ice storm. So a lot of the DNR trails and the motorcycle clubs have been doing cleanup for a year, trying to get all that cleaned up, and then we get hit with the rain and the snow and the flooding, and it's been one thing after another up here for that stuff.
Yeah, no, it's definitely been rough. Um, are there any sponsors that you want to give a shout out to or you want to gain? And how can people support you?
Um, Honestly, OVN is my main sponsor right now because I haven't really been racing. They're my big support. Um, with no big ambitions to
I lost you a little bit. I think you might be back now.
yeah, yeah. With no big ambitions or any major races planned in the near future. The next one that I want to do, like I said, I want to start doing some rally stuff, with the T7. So I'm going to be looking into doing. I'd like to do the Mint 400. Um, so when that comes around, I'll be posting on my social media, which generally is my Facebook. Um, Reaching out for that, and the support that I would need for that would be any other support for races. It's going to be mainly financial, fuel, food, lodging. Um, I take care of 99.9% of the maintenance on my motorcycles and things like
Hmm.
that. So
Yeah, definitely. I'll be definitely watching for that because I think that's a pretty cool race.
yeah,
To the
so
listeners,
I was going to
nope,
say, so
nope.
if Red Bull's listening, feel free to reach out.
Yeah, no. A Red Bull Yamaha.
Yeah.
I think some people would lose their minds.
I'm I've had my fair share of monsters, but I'm more of a Red Bull guy.
I'm more of a Rockstar guy because I like their grape one. Everyone's got their preference.
Oh yeah.
Um, but to our listeners, thanks for joining me today on the No Neutral podcast. Um, Josh, thanks for coming on.
No, thanks for having me.
Where can people find you next? Or where can people find you and what are you doing next? Sorry.
Finding me, you normally find me either at my house or in the woods or on the lake. Um, those it's summertime and we just went through a rough winter, so those are gonna be the places that you'll find me. I'm looking at being at a few races this year in Michigan. I'd like to get out to those and see how that goes, and then the rest is going to be preparing the T7 to do some rally events.
Yeah. Where can people find you on Instagram?
Hold on and let me look at it real quick because it's not the easiest to. So my Instagram is going to be carpe underscore noctem 419. It's a CARPE underscore NOCTEM 419. Most of my socials are going to have the 419 under it. That's the area code in Ohio where I grew up, and you got to represent for the hometown.
Yeah, no, I still have my area code from high school, even though I don't live in that state anymore. But that was when I got my phone number, and it's not worth changing your phone number ever.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And living in northern Michigan, I got to represent the scarlet and gray.
Mhm. Yeah, good luck with that. I'm sure there's enough U of M and MSU fans up there that are throw you a dirty look, but
They do.
it's
It's worth
it's
it.
a, I bet. Um, everyone, you can find me as Purple Badger Man everywhere, capital PBM, no spaces, whether it be Twitch, Instagram, or whatnot. Check out OVN's website for we've got a calendar up there with a bunch of the different events that our ambassador athletes are doing. And remember to reach out before you are in a crisis. Vets for Warriors is a confidential veteran ran help service. You can call, email, or chat with 24/7. A veteran will be answering the line, um, whether they're professional psychiatrist level or somebody who's there to help you. They're trained and they will find a way to get you the help you need. And if for some reason you can't get a hold of them, which shouldn't happen, the veteran crisis line is you can just call at 988 and press 1. Everyone, thanks for watching or listening wherever you are. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment or whatever it is. If you have questions for myself or Josh on anything, OVN's Instagram post for this episode when we push it out is the best place to put those. But yeah, thanks everybody, and I will see you all on the next episode.